The Scarecrow looked at her reproachfully, and answered, "My life has been so short that I really know nothing whatever. I was only made day before yesterday. What happened in the world before that time is all unknown to me. Luckily, when the farmer made my head, one of the first things he did was to paint on my ears, so that I heard what was going on. There was another Munchkin with him, and the first thing I heard was the farmer saying, 'How do you like those ears?' 'They aren't straight,' answered the other. 'Never mind,' said the farmer, 'they are just ears just the same,' which was true, though. 'Now I'll make the eyes,' said the farmer. So he painted my right eye, and as soon as it was finished I found myself looking at him and at everything around me with a great deal of curiosity, for this was my first glimpse of the world. 'That's a rather pretty eye,' remarked the Munchkin, who was watching the farmer. 'Blue paint is just the right color for eyes.' 'But I think I'll make the other a little bigger,' said the farmer, and when the second eye was done I could see much better than before. Then he made my nose and my mouth, but I did not speak, because at that time I didn't know what a mouth was for. I had the fun of watching them make my body and my arms and legs, and when they fastened on my head, at last I felt very proud, for I thought I was just as good as a man as anyone. 'This fellow will scare the crows fast enough,' said the farmer. 'He looks just like a man.' 'Why, he is a man,' said the other, and I quite agreed with him. The farmer carried me under his arm to the cornfield, and set me up on a tall stick, where you found me. He and his friends soon after walked away and left me alone. I did not like to be deserted this way, so I tried to walk after them, but my feet would not touch the ground, and I was forced to stay on that pole. It was a lonely life to lead, for I had nothing to think of, having been made such a little while before. Many crows and other birds flew into the cornfield, but as soon as they saw me they flew away again, thinking I was a Munchkin, and this pleased me and made me feel that I was quite an important person. By and by an old crow flew near me, and after looking at me carefully he perched upon my shoulder and said, 'I wonder if that farmer thought to fool me in this clumsy manner. Any crow of sense could see that you are only stuffed with straw.' Then he hopped down at my bare feet and ate all the corn he wanted. The other birds, seeing that he was not harmed by me, came to eat the corn too, so in a short time there was a great flock of them around me. I felt sad for this, for it showed I was not a good scarecrow after all. But the old crow confronted me, saying, 'If you only had brains in your head, you would be as good as a man as any of 'em, and better than some of 'em. Brains are only things worth having in this world, no matter whether one is a crow or a man.' After the crows had gone, I thought this over, and decided I would try to get some brains. By good luck you came along and pulled me off the stake, and from what you say, I am sure the Great Oz will give me brains as soon as we get to the Emerald City." "I hope so," said Dorothy earnestly, "since you seem anxious to have them." "Oh, yes, I am anxious," returned the Scarecrow. "This is such an uncomfortable feeling to know that one is a fool." "Well," said the girl, "let us go," and she handed the basket to the Scarecrow. There were no fences at all by the roadside now, and the land was rough and untilled. Toward the evening they came to a great forest, where the trees grew so big and close together that their branches met over the road of yellow brick. It was almost dark under the trees, for the branches shut out the daylight, but the travelers did not stop, and went on into the forest. "If this road goes on, it must come out," said the Scarecrow, "and as the Emerald City as the other end of the road, we must go wherever it leads us." "Anyone would know that," said Dorothy. "Certainly. That is why I know it," returned the Scarecrow. "If it required brains to figure out, I never would have said it." An hour after or so the light faded away, and they found themselves stumbling along into the darkness. Dorothy could not see at all, but Toto could, for some dogs do see very well in the dark, and the Scarecrow declared he could see as well as day, so she took hold of his arm and managed to get along fairly well. "If you see any house or any place where we can pass the night," she said, "you must tell me, for it is very uncomfortable walking in the dark." Soon after, the Scarecrow stopped. "I could see a little cottage at the right of us," he said, "built of logs and branches. Shall we go there?" "Yes, indeed," answered the child. "I am all tired out." Soon the Scarecrow led her through the trees until they found a cottage, and Dorothy entered and found a bed of dried leaves in one corner. She lay down at once, and with Toto beside her, she soon fell sound asleep. The Scarecrow, who was never tired, stood up in another corner and waited patiently until morning came. Chapter 5. The Rescue of the Tin Woodman. When Dorothy awoke, the sun was shining through the trees, and Toto had long been out chasing birds around him and squirrels. She sat up and looked around her. Scarecrow was still patiently in his corner, waiting for her. "We must go and search for water," she said to him. "Why do you want water?" he asked. "To wash my face clean after the dust of the road, and to drink so the dry bread will not stick to my throat." "It must be inconvenient to be made of flesh," said the Scarecrow thoughtfully, "for we must sleep and eat and drink. However, you have brains, and it is worth a lot of bother to be able to think properly." They left the cottage and walked through the trees until they found a little spring of clear water, where Dorothy drank and bathed and ate her breakfast. She saw there was not much bread left in the basket, and the girl was thankful the Scarecrow did not have anything to eat, for there was scarcely enough for herself and Toto for the day. When she had finished her meal, she was about to go up to the road of yellow brick, and she was startled to hear a deep groan nearby. "What was that?" she asked timidly. "I cannot imagine," replied the Scarecrow, "but we can go and see." Just another moan reached their ears, and it seemed to come from behind them. They turned and walked through the forest a few steps, when Dorothy discovered something shining in a ray of sunshine that fell between the trees. She ran to the place and stopped short, with a cry of surprise. One of the big trees had been partly chopped through. Standing beside it, with an uplifted axe in his hand, was a man made entirely of tin. His head and arms and legs were jointed upon his body, but he stood perfectly motionless, as if he could not stir at all. Dorothy looked at him in amazement, and so did the Scarecrow, while Toto barked sharply and made a snap at the tin legs, which hurt his teeth. "Did you groan?" asked Dorothy. "Yes," answered the man, "I did, and I have been groaning for more than a year, and no one has ever heard me before or come to help me." "What can I do for you?" she inquired softly, for she was moved by the sad voice in which the man spoke. "Get an oil can and oil my joints," he answered. "They are all rusted, and so badly that I cannot move them at all. If I am well oiled, I shall be able to be all right again. You can find an oil can on the shelf of my cottage." Dorothy at once ran back to the cottage and found an oil can, and she returned and asked anxiously, "Where are your joints?" "Oil my neck first," replied the Tin Woodman. So she oiled it, and as it was quite badly rusted, the Scarecrow took hold of the tin head and moved it gently from side to side until it worked freely, and then the man could turn it himself. "Now oil the joints in my arms," he said, and Dorothy oiled them, and the Scarecrow bent them carefully until they were quite free from rust, and as good as new. The Tin Woodman gave a sigh of satisfaction and lowered his axe, which he leaned against the tree. "This is a great comfort," he said. "I have been holding that axe in the air ever since I rusted, and I'm going to be glad to be able to put it down at last. Now if you will oil the joints of my legs, I shall be all right once more." So they oiled his legs until he could move them freely, and he thanked them again and again for his release, for which he seemed very polite and very grateful. "I might have stood there always if you had not come along," he said, "so you have certainly saved my life. How did you happen to be here?" "We were on our way to the Emerald City to see Great Oz," she answered, "and we stopped at your cottage to pass the night." "Why do you wish to see Oz?" he asked. "I want him to send me back to Kansas, and the Scarecrow wants him to put a few brains in his head." The Tin Woodman appeared to think deeply for a moment. Then he said, "Do you suppose Oz could give me a heart?" "Why, I guess so," Dorothy answered. "It would be as easy as to give a Scarecrow brains." "True," the Tin Woodman returned. "So if you will allow me to join your party, I will also go to the Emerald City to ask Oz to help me." "Come along," said the Scarecrow heartily, and Dorothy added that she would be pleased to have his company. So the Tin Woodman shouldered his axe, and they all passed through the forest until they came to a road that was paved with yellow brick. The Tin Woodman had asked Dorothy to put the oil can in her basket, for he said, "If I get caught in rain and rust again, I will need that oil can badly." It was a bit of good luck to have their new comrade join the party, for soon after they had begun their journey again, they came to a place where the trees and branches grew so thick over the road that the travelers could not pass. But the Tin Woodman set to work with his axe and chopped so well that he soon cleared the passage for the entire party. Dorothy was thinking so earnestly as they walked along that she did not notice when the Scarecrow stumbled into a hole and rolled over the side of the road. Indeed, he was obliged to call for her help to help him up again. "Why didn't you walk around the hole?" asked the Tin Woodman. "I don't know enough," replied the Scarecrow cheerfully. "My head is stuffed with straw, you know, and that is why I'm going to Oz, to ask him for some brains." "Oh, I see," said the Tin Woodman. "But after all, brains are not the best thing in the world." "Have you any?" inquired the Scarecrow. "No, my head is quite empty," answered the Woodman, "but once I had brains and a heart also, so, having tried them both, I should much rather have a heart." "And why is that?" asked the Scarecrow. "I will tell you my story, and then you will know." So while they were walking through the forest, the Tin Woodman told the following story. "I was born the son of a woodsman who chopped down trees in the forest and sold wood for a living. When I grew up, I too became a wood chopper, and after my father died, I took care of my mother as long as she lived. Then I made up my mind that instead of living alone, I would marry, so that I might not become lonely. There was one of the Munchkin girls who was so beautiful that I grew to love her with all my heart. So, on her part, she promised to marry me as soon as I could earn enough money to build a better house for her. So I set to work harder than ever. But the girl lived with an old woman who did not want her to marry anyone, for she was lazy. She wished the girl to remain with her and do the cooking and the housework. So the old woman went to the Wicked Witch of the East and promised her 2 sheep and a cow if she would prevent the marriage. Thereupon the Wicked Witch enchanted my axe, and when I was chopping away at my best one day, for I was anxious to get home to my new house and wife as soon as possible, the axe slipped all at once and cut off my left leg. This at first seemed a great misfortune, for I knew a one-legged man could not do very well as a wood chopper, so I went to a tinsmith and had him make me a new leg out of tin. The leg worked very well once I used it, but my action angered the Wicked Witch of the East, for she had promised the old woman I should not marry the pretty Munchkin girl. When I began chopping again, my axe slipped and cut off my right leg. Again I went to the tinsmith, and again he had me a leg made out of tin. After this, the enchanted axe cut off my arms, one after another, but nothing daunted. I had them replaced with tin ones. The Wicked Witch then made an axe slip and cut off my head, and at first I thought it was the end of me, but the tinsmith came along and had made me a new head out of tin. I thought I had beaten the Wicked Witch then, and I worked harder than ever, but I knew little how cruel the enemy would be. She thought of a new way to kill my love for the beautiful Munchkin maiden, and made my axe slip again, so that it cut right through my body, splitting me into 2 halves. Once more the tinsmith came to my help, and made me a body out of tin, fastening my tin arms and legs and head to it by means of joints, so that now I could move around as well as ever. But alas, I now had no heart, so lost my love for the Munchkin girl, and I did not care whether I married her or not. I suppose she is still living with the old woman, waiting for me to come after her. My body shone so brightly in the sun that I felt very proud of it, and it did not matter now if my axe slipped, for it could not cut me. There was only one danger, that my joints would rust. But I kept an oil can in my cottage, and took care of the oil myself whenever I needed it. However, there came a day when I forgot to do this, and being caught in a rainstorm, before I thought of the danger, my joints had rusted, and I was left to stand in the woods until you came by to help me. It was a terrible thing to undergo, but during the year I stood there, I had time to think that the greatest loss I'd ever known was the loss of my heart. While I was in love, I was the happiest man on earth, but no one can love who has not a heart, and so I am resolved to ask Oz to give me one. If he does, I will go back to the Munchkin maiden and marry her. Both Dorothy and the Scarecrow had been greatly interested in the story of the Tin Woodman, and now they knew why he was so anxious to get a new heart. "All the same," said the Scarecrow, "I shall ask for brains instead of a heart, for a fool would not know what to do with a heart if he had one." "I shall take the heart," returned the Tin Woodman, "for the brains did not make me happy, and happiness is the best thing in the world." Dorothy did not say anything, for she was puzzled to know which of her 2 friends was right, and she decided if she could only get back to Kansas and Aunt Em, it did not matter so much whether the Woodman had no brains and the Scarecrow had no heart, or if each got what he wanted. What worried her the most was that the bread was nearly gone, and another meal for herself and Toto would be an empty basket. To be sure, neither the Woodsman nor the Scarecrow ever ate anything, but she was not made of tin nor straw, and could not live unless she was fed.